Game 3 is upon us, folks. 100 Thieves Academy and TSM Academy. Yes, you got to get the clap in because both of those games were dynamite to watch. TSM Academy had a lot to say in their Game 1 victory, punishing a lot of the, honestly, the rushed aggression from 100 Thieves Academy and the way that things started. We almost expected something similar to happen as the first replay is Poom trying to go a little too hard in the paint, trying to force this advantage, but then, Josh, things start rolling in, and the Chad show starts to come online.
It feels almost like whoever gets the first kill on bottom lane loses, right? It's definitely been a situation where, you know, apparently bottom lane is not relevant to your win conditions ever because you just win the rest of the map if you give over that first kill. But much more seriously, we saw a lot of parallels between this first game and, game 1 and game 2, where we saw back and forth fighting, and this time 100 Thieves Academy, their better positioning and their better understanding of when to take fights allowed them to come out ahead in a lot of these very chaotic situations.
I'm just admiring the Graves gameplay because I love it when a Graves pops off and just starts to get further accelerated, especially with an aggressive build like this, because like you said, you know, you're going for Dark Harvest, you're going for lethality, and that means each kill has got to be important as they continue stacking up and snowballing even further and further, because you just start doing so much damage. And for TSM Academy, the composition that they had constructed for themselves, in theory, has a lot of moving parts, wombos to set up for burst from Takeover and Cody Sun, but Takeover didn't get to take over the game, Josh. He got pretty put far behind, and Cody Sun was lacking on damage after the second item, and for TSM Academy, they just did not have enough to be able to combat against 100 Thieves once they got the snowball rolling.
It almost makes me wonder if we saw a pivot in the drafting strategy coming out for 100 Thieves. When they saw that the Rise was not banned by TSM, they're like, okay, well, we don't need to ban the LeBlanc anymore. We can ban the Irelia instead and allow you to play it because we're going to be playing the classic counterpick of the Rise into it anyway, something that Ryoma has shown a lot of proficiency on throughout both Game 1 and Game 2. And we saw over and over that this Rise had much more of an impact in these fights than the LeBlanc did because it just had so much more freedom to move around because Takeover could never really go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Even in these games as well, you know, one of the things that for 100 Thieves that they got to exploit on is that Luger on the bars, once again, having a lot of presence and dictation, and whether you have this range advantage that the space that basically TSM Academy have to respect by either forcing fights using long-range engage potential through Rakan and Jarvan, or you just can't get in the zone at all. And you have to kind of accept the fact. In TSM Academy, a lot of the times, those engages that tried to come through, they didn't have the necessary follow-up to be able to make those engages actually count. And now, going into this next draft, I wonder if TSM Academy, rather than attacking something like, you know, the comfort pick of the Graves away from Chad, if they actually try to remove Luger off of the Vars, because it has been kind of setting up for a lot of how these compositions have been structured for 100 Thieves.
Well, we do know that TSM are going to be playing on the blue side, so once again, both teams sticking to their guns. We're going to be seeing the same teams on the same sides for the third game in a row, and I think that there's a lot of value to taking away the Vars, right? It's such a flexible pick. It has multiple viable build paths. It has, you know, guaranteed crowd control effectively, and it can really push people out of fights all the time. That said, we also saw how effective Ryoma's Rise was, and we also just speculated about whether or not this is something that they can just play into Takeover's LeBlanc and say, yeah, we don't need to ban it anymore, we're just going to get the easy counter pick. So I feel like there are a lot of viable options for TSM to try to attack, but they do need to pick to one. They do need to figure out how they want to actually play this game, because there are so many different ways that are good, but you have to commit to one.
TSM Academy might look for something that plays more to giving Cody Sun a little bit more dominance in the laning phase, as we've seen Ezreal, both games. He gets to play back, he gets to play safe, but it doesn't necessarily give him the reins to really control the laning phase, because we've already seen before, even with Poom giving up first blood it was because Luger and Poom had once again established bottom lane dominance and control. They took away the Braum. He's still doing it on the Leona and when you are Poom. And just because of the Vars being such a great combo that works with a variety of supports that wants to start off a fight and look for all ins, maybe that is something that you want to attack as TSM this time around.
I feel like it's going to be hard to attack the bottom lane of 100 Thieves. We've been seeing that they are, in most cases, outperforming Cody-san and Yuri-san in this series. And the one place that I feel like we have been seeing a lot of strength coming out from TSM is still the top lane, right? Hanser has been looking very strong in both Games 1 and Game 2. He had a significant advantage over Gamsu's Gnar in what is not supposed to be a particularly good matchup for the Renekton. Give him some tools, maybe actually affect some of these dives. We saw some speculation coming out from TSM of like, maybe we can dive Gamsu here, and every single time they called it off. They didn't actually go for any of these aggressive dives, and if you need to bring an extra member, so be it, but I feel like you need to give Hanser a bigger advantage to play with.
Yeah, they tried to look for the one dive, but the timer was not quite right as Gamsu was just about to hit Mega, and something that we learned from, I don't remember if it was an Academy game or a LCS game this past summer, but a team tried to dive a Mega Gnar, and it how should I put it, Josh? Yeah, it was not good. That was pretty abysmal for the team that dived the Mega Gnar. So avoiding that at all costs, but just because they had that one dive attempt that was foiled doesn't mean that you should just give up. TSM Academy, maybe in hindsight, it's easier to obviously say, 2020. It could have been more opportunities created had they put a little bit more time and resources into trying and find a way to shut down Gamsu, because even without the dive, Hanser managed to find an advantage as well as a solo kill onto Gamsu, but not being able to push that advantage to a point where TSM could blow up the game through the top side of the map meant that they had no advantage to really combat the fact that Luger was super far ahead, Ryoma was starting to come into his own, and Chad was also incredibly accelerated towards the mid game.
I wonder then if something that we also have to pay attention to that we haven't really looked at is the fact that Jarvan was picked very late in the draft for TSM Academy, and Jarvan is a lot stronger now than he used to be with the buffs to his passive, doing more damage to both monsters and champions. It means he clears the jungle faster, and he also just does more damage when he jumps in.
Yeah.
That said, he does have some very clear weaknesses because jumping in is basically the only thing he does. And I feel like if you give Hyper a little bit more of a versatile champion, or one that can, make plays on their own instead of being a setup for somebody else, it might give them a little bit more freedom to play around these, this jungler that has given them a lot of their success.
It's kind of the same thing that 100 Thieves Academy did for Chad, going from Game 1 to Game 2. Volibear has a lot of early game damage and has a lot of potential lethality that you can take advantage of within the first 10 minutes of the game, especially when you're running an aggressive rune like Press the Attack, as it synergizes so well with Volibear's kit. But then outside of the 10-minute range, he's just there to be a meat shield. He's there to try and stun someone, maybe give you advantages to dive a turret thanks to Stormbreaker, but he doesn't get to carry, right? And the Graves look was an incredibly different 180 look for Chad. He looked actually like he had so much control in the game.
And we're seeing the same three bans coming through from both teams in Game 2 and Game 3 at this point. So TSM feel like it's simply an execution difference, but no, they're going to be the ones first picking the Vars this time around, not getting trapped into picking up the LeBlanc. And I feel like 100 Thieves are very likely to just grab the Rise anyway, right? Almost been playing quite well, and it pushes out Takeover's LeBlanc.
Yeah, unless TSM Academy feel confident that they can actually accelerate the LeBlanc advantage early on into the game, but Crawl Luger says, you take the Vars, man, but I've still got another marksman up my sleeve, baby.
And we've definitely seen a lot of very, exciting colors to play over the past couple of months. It can be very, very aggressive, but we also know that it is the kind of champion where if you end up falling behind, it becomes very difficult, and I really like this Braum. The Kalista, very confident coming out from Luger right now, but again, I've said this many times, Kalista is the only champion whose attack speed is slowed by getting slowed normally. By having your movement speed slowed, you aren't going to be able to get off as many auto attacks as quickly, and there's a slow on Vars, there's a slow on Braum, and there's a slow on the Graves. Wait, are they just copying them?
Yeah. It's like, hey, 100 Thieves, that's a nice composition you have. Those are some nice champions. Those are my champions now.
My champions now.
And Hyper, I don't think I've ever seen a Graves game from him during the Academy Summer Split, nor in Unified Grand Prix, just taking a look through most recent games. But I will say that Hyper is definitely a player that will have put in some games on a champion like Graves. And now this is going to be a question that we ask from Chad. What comes down in the champion pool now? Because from Chad, if you want to put him in the same spot as he was on the Graves, someone that is more resource intensive, in terms of things he's already played on stage, it's the Kha'Zix, but I'm not sure if this is the time to bust out the Kha'Zix right now.
I mean, it would be very bold, right? It's definitely something that you have to be very confident on. And I mean, we've already seen a lot of confidence coming through as Luger is going to be bringing out the Callista. I think we got a really significant fight on our hands because we're going to be looking at, again, very chaotic fights throughout this game. Simply because you have a lot of ranged characters, you have a little bit of crowd control, but not super heavy from either team. And based on how these teams round out, I'm expecting to see either a big tank coming out of the top lane for Gamsu, or something similar to the Gnar that we've been seeing quite often throughout this tournament.
TSM Academy trying to ban all of the facilitator junglers in Xin Zhao and Trundle that have a lot of early game presence, and even though it's not necessarily up... Yeah, but you know what? The Viego is still on the table, and Chad says, oh, that's fine, you can take the Graves, because I'll just kill you and take it right back.
Thank you for picking me the Graves so that I can just play it again this game even without having to select it myself. So, I mean, this is a champion that we have been see a lot of changes recently, but it is also a champion that we still know has a lot of reset opportunities. There's a lot of damage already coming through for 100 Thieves, and that takes any winning fight that you are already going to be looking at and makes it super, super dominant. So, look at this. There are 4 range champions currently being selected for TSM Academy, and I'm expecting this Gnar to probably come through. It is Haunter's best blind pick by far, and I think it is going to be a situation where, as these fights start to explode all across the map, you're going to be seeing these very, very chaotic fights that are going to be very touch and go for both teams.
And the pivot over to Kennen, not the Gnar, but not only this means that you have now dual match damage laners in both your mid and top lane, which diversifies the damage portfolio a bit for TSM Academy. Also, this gives you great counter engage because TSM Academy, you already have ways of trying to peel back. Okay, but we got a Jace for Gamsu? I didn't even know he played this champ.
Played that.
Yeah.
I have not seen Gamsu's Jace in a long time, and I'm sure you're looking it up right now, but this is a situation where both teams have come to fight, right? We saw a very bloody game 1, a very bloody game 2, but they were very dominant one way or the other, and guys, I gotta say, we should be ready for that to happen once again. These are 2 compositions where if one of them starts getting ahead, they both do a lot of the same things. They both have a lot of these ranged characters that are going to be fighting all over the place, and if one of them gets ahead, it's very easy for them to snowball that into a full victory.
Bro, I'm trying to look up Gamsu stats right now, and Games of Legends is kind of failing me at the moment because they don't have... I need to go to Oracle's Elixir. Shoutouts to Tim7 Houston, baby. Let's see if he's got the juice. He's got the stats here. The download.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Gamsu play this character. Like even when he used to play in Europe, right? I don't think we saw him do it there either. And he's always kind of been known as kind of like this tankier player. He did the same thing in Overwatch when he was there because he was the off tank, I believe, for the team that he was playing on.
Shanghai Dragons, baby.
Shanghai Dragons. Yeah, this is going to be a very surprising play coming through for 100 Thieves. And if Gamsu can find an advantage up against Hauntzer, it can again very easily snowball into a win.
Still trying to find Gamsu stats. Well, the game has started. We'll have to put those J stats away for now, if they even exist, for Mr. Gamsu. But if they're able to perform on this would be a huge pivot in terms of how 100 Thieves Academy would have projected to be able to play, because, we came in with the assumption that apart from Nard, it's really just a bunch of tanks that is in Gamsu's comfort wheelhouse. But this would diversify the playstyle for 100 Thieves Academy for the rest of the Proving Grounds run.
I think it's definitely going to be a statement, right? You don't just idly pull out a Jace. It's not a champion that you can just play without a lot of practice. And I am expecting to see a lot of fireworks topside. Viego coming up, Graves coming up, lots of opportunities to go for these fights. And I think one of the interesting things that we're seeing right now is this is the first game in the series where 100 Thieves aren't going for some kind of invade into TSM jungle.
So far, normal jungle starts. Hyper's going to be starting with a solo leash on to the bottom side of the map, whereas Chad is going to get a little bit of help from his friends in Luger and Poom starting on the blue buff. I expect that both of these junglers are just going to try to look for full clears into the top side of the map where this Ken and Jace matchup. I mean, I want to ask your kind of insight on this because I know you've put some time onto the Jace. What is this Kennen matchup like?
It's very volatile, right? It's a situation where Jace has the extra abilities and should be able to do a lot of damage with that, but it's also a situation where if Jace ends up falling behind, the fact that he doesn't have an ultimate is going to hurt him really badly if he isn't able to continue just going for a lot of these fights. He luckily has the Thundering Blow, the Hammer E to knock the Kennen away, but you're still almost definitely going to get stunned in the time it takes to 1, transform, and then 2, actually throw out the ability. So it becomes a little bit more difficult for him to play after level 6.
Interestingly enough, Josh, I have finally found some stats on Gamsu's Jace. So he has not played it within this year, but an all-time record. He has played Jace once in his entire competitive career. You got to win on it, so it's a 100% win rate at the moment. Not bad.
All right. Well, it's either going to stay 100% or drop down to 50%. That's a pretty significant variance. Stats major. Not actually. I did take some stats classes, though.
I was about to say, I was like, wait a minute, aren't you like a... What did you major in? It wasn't psychology, was it? It was...
Nah, I tell people it's philosophy, but we'll get back after philosophizing whether or not your son gets to survive.
I see,
He
I
does.
see. Cody's son managing to stay alive, not having to burn any summoner spells whatsoever. Poom did burn the Ignite, trying to go for it. Oh, this could be brutal for Gamsu right now. Haunter, he already knows. Wait, whoa.
What was that? What? I knew Gupsy was in trouble, but I didn't expect it to happen like that. What? That was crazy. But we're also going to see this Jace fall really far behind all of a sudden. Yeah, he's going to be able to teleport back and has some control over the wave state, but that was weird, Mark. I almost wonder if there was like some weird like lag thing or something, but there's no pause, there's nothing that ends up happening, and players are going to continue playing. That was fully intentional.
Well, that was weird.
Yeah, that was super weird.
Yeah, the way that Haunter was also standing, and it seemed like he was either canceling auto attacks. I couldn't tell if he was BMing or not. It looked like that the 1v1 has already won, and then Gamsu... I don't even know what just happened. Maybe this 1v1 replay will look at back.
What? I don't think that actually made it any more clear, because he just like stepped back and forth trying to do something, and I feel like Gamsu could have just tried to leave, right? Instead, he goes back in. That was never going to kill, right? Haunter is just a little bit too tanky, and you can't melee auto-attack a Kennen while he's in the middle of his E. I mean, you can do it, but not at that HP. You're just going to die on contact. I don't know, Mark. That was a really bizarre situation. Once Haunter hits level 6, this becomes very dangerous for Gamsu, because like Hyper can come up and you have a pretty much guaranteed stun from Haunter's ultimate.
Well, Josh, I actually have some unfortunate news. I potentially I unknowingly lied to you. There was one Jace game this split during the EGL Open Qualifier. He played against Conviction. He went 7-1-8 against Gnar. So I think that is the one competitive Jace game that he's actually won. So I mean, that's cool. It's cool that Gamsu is playing something like Jace, these split pushers that require a little bit more resources. But something that we've talked about Jace's in the past, Josh, is that you can't just leave Jace on an island and expect, oh yeah, he's going to be fine. The weak side Jace. No, you want to see resources being put into it, because right now Hyper is the one that is putting the pressure in this topside matchup.
Yeah, 100 Thieves, again, going to be getting this first Dragon as they have for the past 2 games. The big thing about Jace is, yes, he is still a strong early game champion, and we might see him go down here in a second. Sponsor, ooh, that's a lot of damage. Maybe a little bit too much baiting. But Jace has a really strong wake-up these days that he didn't really used to, right? When you get the 2 items and you have the Muramana as well, is when he becomes this absolute monster poke champion. And it allows him to play in the mid game a lot more effectively, kind of regardless of how his laning phase goes these days, as long as he's not desperately far behind.
So far, he's keeping even with CS, and despite the bizarre level 1, actually, we have action on the bottom side of the map. Ryoma coming in with a Realm Warp train, and they just lock down Cody Sun for an easy kill, and they're still going hard for Urson on the tower, and they get him, and no one dies in the turret dive.
Wow, okay, I was going to spend the next thing I was going to talk about was the fact that Luger and Poom weren't actually building advantages quite yet, right? We said that the Callisto really early means that you can pick some pretty good champions into it, and Navaris and Guam were doing a fantastic job for the first time, really getting an advantage for Cody-san and Yurasan. But with Ryoma coming down, that's turned right back on its head. So, Mark, if we're going to see the same thing as we saw in games 1 and 2 happen in game 3, the fact that 100 Thieves have just gotten a couple of kills in the bottom lane means it should be a TSM victory, right?
What? Oh shoot, you're right. Will 100 Thieves Academy break the curse? The first team that gets a kill into the bottom side of the map has lost, according to our series record, but we'll have to pay close attention, as it is a small sample rate over 2 games.
True. But it is 100% so far, right? Those are convincing stats. But the big thing that I also want to pay attention to is how Chad ends up playing through the rest of this game, right? He is going to be on this very volatile champion. I feel like I've been using that word a lot, right? But it just like really accurately describes how I feel about this game, is because everything that happens is going to be back and forth, and this is a situation where, you know, Cody doesn't have his flash. They ended up blowing it in a previous engagement, and Yurasan doesn't have a whole lot left to do. It just means that the last Q coming through from Luger is enough to actually pick up the kill. And whoa, this is a different change. TSM Academy were actually the ones that start up the neutral objective, and Chad ends up just coming around to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, thanks to Ryoma, was able to get the push in against Takeover. Looks like they were trying to pass off the blue buff, but right now Takeover is the one that's getting bamboozled over the wall. He gets caught out. Thanks to Poom being able to pop the quickness and the grand entrance, Ryoma gets locked up by this chain of corruptions from Cody. Takes some poke from the piercing arrow. Hyper has both buffs. Concer is coming in as well. Gamsu is coming in from the other side of the wall. They want to pick up the Rift Herald. It is a little unfortunate for Poom. He goes down, but he has the Rift Herald acquired.
So that should be worthwhile coming out for 100 Thieves Academy, right? As long as you pick up the Rift Herald, they got the kill onto Takeover previously, so it's kind of an extended 1-for-1, but also you should be able to crash it for at least 2 plates, which is 320 gold, so you're kind of up a kill when all is said and done. But the big thing is they actually have to use it. They got to find some advantages with it. Otherwise, it's just kind of a, you know, the game is very even until they are actually able to drop it. But I also like these lane assignments that are coming through right now. TSM noted that Takeover wasn't going to do anything in the mid lane before the reset. He wants to clear out some of these minions. And the one thing he needs to be careful of is it looks like he might have hand-delivered Luger and Puma freeze, but doesn't look like they want it.
I think they want to use this Rift Herald ASAP. While Cody's Sun had reset from the mid lane, catching that push from Ryoma. This gives about a solid wave's time for Chad and Poom to set up aggressive vision into the bottom quadrant of this jungle. They have the Rift Herald available. Not sure if they're going to drop it quite yet, as just as I say that, they say it's go time. One plate already falls, and you're going to be looking for more. Hyper is here in the vicinity as well to make sure that he can prevent, or at least be there, the counter gank if 100 Thieves want to press for more.
I think if it was a Rift Herald on a different champion, this is not the play we would have seen, but it is too important to make sure that your support actually has access to their vision trinket, and you just gotta make sure you use it relatively early on so that you can go back to controlling vision around the rest of the map, and you see it instantly pop right there in order to make sure that they aren't going to get teleported on, that they aren't going to get surprised, and that they can stand in places that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to.
100 Thieves almost dead even in gold with TSM Academy when all is said and done. And in the past 2 games, Josh, around this same time, either TSM or 100 Thieves had a decent lead, usually about 3,000 or 4,000 ahead. Right now, everything is pretty much dead even. This dragon will be secured by 100 Thieves thanks to their priority in the bottom lane, and Ballista giving them a lot of neutral objective control. 2 dragons stacked up, 100 Thieves Academy, 2 away from Soul Point. It's going to be a Cloud Soul once again.
It looks like 100 Thieves are rolling a little bit low on the dragons that they want. They got the second game, they got the Mountain Soul, but in games 1 and games 3, this has both been Cloud Soul games, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. It doesn't do a whole lot for a lot of the champions on this team. Ryze doesn't use his ultimate that frequently, and Jace and Diego do not care. Hardly at all about having the reduced cooldown on their R buttons, because one of them is a reset and one of them is a transform champion, so they're already in such low cooldowns that it's barely relevant. But hey, look at this, the first real opportunity for a gank. I mean, we saw Hyper chilling in the bushes earlier, but now Poom maybe looking to upset the balance of top lane and really starting to look to play around Gamsu.
Luger trying to get a couple more auto attacks in. Not going to knock down this turret yet for first brick. When you look at the rest of the map, not many turret plates have been exchanged elsewhere for 100 Thieves Academy, whereas Hanser has been able to knock down 2 plates over in the top side of the map. And you're looking at cooldowns right now. All of TSM have their ultimates available. Flashes are all up. Teleports are also available. 100 Thieves Academy, if they want to continue pushing for this bottom lane turret, watch to see where Hanser Takeover are in position in their waves, because they might be able to look for a counter response if 100 Thieves press for it.
With only the teleport on Ryoma, there's not a whole lot of options for 100 Thieves to look for a really big dive, right? If you wanted to do that, you would oftentimes want to bring down Jace as well, but he's kind of trapped up in the top lane, does have the Eclipse completed compared to the Rocket Belt that Hanser does have, but we are seeing Luger and Poom. They are actually still behind in CS at this point. Despite the couple of kills that they were able to pick up, they're not necessarily getting a lead that way. They did have the plates that they picked up, they were able to get some kills, but it kind of gives me a little bit of pause, and I have to ask, how effective is Luger's Callista going to be in the mid game if they aren't able to find a big advantage here?
Just a little bit of teasing from Poom, going in for the grand entrance, get some chunk damage out of Cody some, but nothing enough to really threaten for lethal, as Cody and Yurson are actually starting to back off for now. The turret plating has evaporated. No more plates, and extra gold can be found through chipping away at these turrets. But for 100 Thieves Academy, you know that they're just waiting on these power spikes to come in closer, or I should say Chad was sitting and waiting for that Divine Sunder power spike. Ryoma has already roamed over to the bottom side of the map. Teleport is available for a Hanser, but it's just a Glacial Fissure to force out the Fate's Call from Luger.
Also, Cody's son used the ultimate, so that is a 2-for-1 ultimate trade that ends up resulting in not a whole lot, but they do chunk out Poom, and they are going to be sitting the turret for a little while longer, but it does invite opportunities for people to try and come down and look for that dive. Instead, Chad going to be hanging out in the mid lane, and Takeover just goes in.
Oh, well, Takeover tried to go onto Ryoma, but he flashes away, and Takeover doesn't get a chance to respond appropriately. And now there's action happening all over the map. Hanser is currently tied up with Gamsu, so he cannot respond for a teleport flank quite yet. Finally, he's going to pop it, but Luger's already slain Cody's son, and Luger just might commit to the dive because he knows that Cody's son, he doesn't get the assist gold, finds the Slicing Maelstrom onto 2 into Ryoma and Chad, who have roamed all the way over, but Hanser just doesn't have enough damage by himself, and Chad picks up another one.
Who says you need to play the Jace lane if everybody in your lanes is going to be leaving? Look at the damage. Your son, gonna have to flash out of that one. Hyper coming down. I don't know if this is a good fight that TSM want to take.
Makeover
3v3.
is okay. Well, he slides on over to the wall, gives himself some distance. Hyper's gonna get into the face of everyone on 100 Thieves. Looks for one onto Ryoma. Gets the shutdown.
Oh, no resets.
And he gets another reset. They take down Chad, and now it's just TSM Academy being able to clean up here. But Gamsu, during this entire time, has been pelting away at this turret. Looks like he's going to be able to get it as well.
Everything kind of going back and forth, and we're not seeing those big leads materialize like we were kind of looking for. If one of these teams was at a larger lead, this game would have, already been over. And I feel like that's like a very tautological thing to say, right? It's like, oh, if one team's winning, they're more likely to win. It's like, oh yeah, no duh, thanks Joshi, you're a great comic caster. This is a situation where I feel like both teams, up until like a minute ago, were almost really cautious. Like, I almost want to say timid in their willingness to go for a lot of these fights. They didn't want to risk anything ever. And it's kind of resulted in the one time that a big play happens, we see this big explosion, but it still results in a very, very small lead at best coming in for 100 Thieves.
Hyper has built himself a huge lead in the aftermath, being able to pick up 2 kills and assists, being able to collapse down. We know that from the past TSM Academy, when Hyper is ahead and snowballing and doing well, especially on a champion that gets a lot of resources like Graves, then TSM Academy are usually in a better spot. But as we look at the replay and all the chaos that really just commenced, action in the mid lane and the bottom lane, seeing everything unfold was really, I don't know what word you would put for it, Josh.
I mean, I would just describe it as like solo queue, right? Like, if this was like a solo queue game, this all would have made a whole lot of sense. Because, you go in, you don't know where the jungler is, but you go in anyway, and now we see another fight for Hyper.
Hyper, does Luger have enough damage, enough Ren stack to be able to get the execute?
So
they do, because Ryoma also is putting in work thanks to the overload and the Essence Flux. Huge shutdown going over to the mid laner for 100 Thieves Academy. The gold lead starting to accelerate a little bit, just shy of 1,000 overall for 100 Thieves Academy. It doesn't signal anything dooming or damning for TSM Academy at this stage of the game. 3 dragons have been picked up for 100 Thieves Academy at this point, but like you said before, Josh, Cloud Soul isn't necessarily the greatest dragon for this composition on 100 Thieves side to have.
The movement speed is very nice, right? It does allow Kalista to be a bit more aggressive and also keep Poom safe a little bit. And of course, the quickness, way more effective when you have the extra movement speed coming in from the Cloud Soul. And normally, the extra movement speed that you get on the ultimate is one of the least relevant parts of the Cloud Soul. But in this particular case, it is nice to have on Poom. But the big thing that I gotta pay attention to is how are TSM going to be putting together plans in this part of the game? Because this is typically where they have had a couple of their weaknesses come through, where they don't necessarily do a lot in this period of time, and it allows teams like 100 Thieves to kind of take advantage of that. They were able to pick up the 3rd dragon completely uncontested, and now, as we see TSM, like, their backs aren't coming in a coordinated fashion. It looks like it might be letting Takeover out to dry.
Rune Prison into Everfrost root, and my goodness, that was so much damage.
Yeah. Ryoma is very far ahead at this point. He's going to be doing a ton of damage throughout this whole thing. Now Poom finding Cody? Not quite.
Gets the flash out. Flash for ultimate exchanged out of Poom. But now that they have a timer, next 5 minutes, Cody Sun's got to be careful where he walks, because a flash quickness grand entrance will seal the deal and definitely mark the end of Cody Sun.
I feel like every single proactive move since about the 12-minute mark has been done by 100 Thieves, and I feel like that is going to mean that they should be pretty far ahead. They're going to be sitting. This is cruel. They know that someone, probably Takeover, is going to have to come clean up this wave, and they're just waiting for him to push out, because who in their right mind would just expect 2 people to be sitting here in this bush? 100 Thieves, oh
and
god.
he dashed forward! Oh my god!
Cruel.
Man.
I don't really know what to say about that. That's just like one of those things that you just do to like prey on unsuspecting players, and I mean, it works out here because I don't think they really had a whole lot of anything else to be doing with their time. There wasn't another wave to farm. Like, they could have farmed that one wave. Maybe they could have gotten a little bit of damage onto the turret. But you know, they didn't necessarily have a whole lot of camps that they needed to do. There was an objective up somewhere else, so they just had the time to go for these cheeky plays.
I think 100 Thieves Academy really dialing in to just being aware that this has not been TakeOver's greatest series so far in his competitive career. Or normally when we see TakeOver in a game, it's usually popping off on things like the Lee Sin and the LeBlanc, and as you mentioned before, but already not being able to perform in the LeBlanc in Game 2, as Ryoma's had way more control and been able to neutralize him. He tries to go for a control mage, which is, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of his first, if not the first game that we've seen TakeOver play the Azir, which is something a champion that normally Sword is more acclimated to, and tries to pull it out, and it hasn't necessarily been the greatest thing for TSM Academy. 100 Thieves are taking full advantage of that. It is still only a 2,000 gold lead when all is said and done, but they are preparing for a Cloud Soul secure.
It looks very difficult for TSM to come in and try and do anything about this, and it looks like TakeOver going to be moving to the opposite side of the map. It's like, yeah, they know. Like, it's a Cloud Soul. It's nice to... You would prefer having a Cloud Soul over not having a Cloud Soul every single time, but it's not going to be the thing that breaks the camel's back in this game. I almost feel like we're looking at a very similar spot to Game 2 once again, where TSM... Like, I feel like their primary win condition at this point is coin flipping an Elder Dragon, and they won the last coin flip. Unfortunately, it just didn't matter because they were 12,000 gold behind. But this game, they're only about 2,000 gold behind.
Yeah.
Elder Dragon is absolutely enough to be the difference maker. And TakeOver, he is horrified. Did you see that? He threw the Q into the bush. He's like, no, this isn't happening again.
The conditioning, man, they already put it into his mind. Oh my god, he's trying to set up for Hyper to annihilate anyone that's coming in from the entrance on that Realm Warp, but Ryoma does so much damage. Is able to annihilate both him and Hyper in the entrance, and Hanser now has to run away, pops the flash, pops the slicing maelstrom, trying to buy as much time as he can, but even the stasis is not going to prevent his death. 100 Thieves Academy wiping out the top 3 members from TSM, and now Baron is on the table.
And what is this again? Like, 100 Thieves are the only ones making these proactive moves, and we see Cody Sun and Urson coming over to try and contest. We saw that they weren't able to get any kills last time this happened in Game 2. I don't think the result is going to be any different here, and in fact, they're more likely to die because of how healthy 100 Thieves are.
Even Poom is threatening forward, trying to get any summoner spells out of Cody Sun and Urson. They get both of their flash and the exhaust and the heal from Cody Sun respectively. Still has the flash now. The next time 100 Thieves Academy want to pick and engage, but Baron is on their side. And honestly, that pick from the Realm Warp extends the gold lead even further. We were looking at, 2,000 by the time the Elder comes around. It's not as bad to flip, but now it's a 5,000 gold lead at this point.
I still gotta say, I think an Elder Dragon is still worth about 5,000 gold. Oh, he starts the quickness. He instantly comes out of it with the charm. That's so gross.
Man.
Coming in. I love the heads-up play coming out of Poom. And again, every single time it feels like TSM, they're not making a whole lot of plans. They're just reacting to what it is that their opponents are doing. And this time, 100 Thieves are not making the same kind of mistakes as they were in Game 1 that was meaning a TSM victory. So 100 Thieves looking to be very strong. They're making all the proactive moves. They're making all the right moves. And the only thing that we can really criticize is, this Jace is just also kind of here. But honestly, with how far ahead the rest of the map is, it doesn't even matter. He's still going to be poking you from a whole screen away.
Yeah, he hasn't really hit the second item completion yet because he stopped for a Hex Drinker just to mitigate a lot of the magic damage from TSM Academy's comp. But he still got enough damage to be a potent split pusher, which really that's all he's been doing. We haven't really seen time for 100 Thieves Academy to set up for poke because usually the rest of the team has been killing TSM Academy members before Game 2 is even needed.
See what they can actually do. One other thing we gotta highlight, Hyper is pretty far ahead of Chad in terms of his farming. They're still down as a team 7,000 gold, so it's a silver lining at best. But it is something that we have to pay attention to. Hyper, with a very different build on his Graves than we saw previously, is going to be taking a lot longer to die, but also a lot longer to kill.
Poom takes a lot of damage. The upfront from TSM Academy. No collateral damage used, though. Poom will be able to stay alive. Gamsu pushing on the other side of the map, slicing Maelstrom with the Proto Belt. Engage comes out. Gamsu trying to survive, but Hyper is here for the cleanup.
Ooh.
Collateral damage does not hit the mark, though, and Gamsu gets out alive.
We kind of saw inklings of why this matchup can be really tough for Jace if he ends up falling behind. He almost died there, and if Hyper had landed that ultimate, definitely would have been giving over a kill. But those are a couple of big cooldowns that TSM had to expend for that. And luckily for them, they are both going to be up before the Elder actually spawns. As Poom, I feel like he's just like throwing out sad bees. Why are you so sad, Poom? You're winning.
I don't think it's him that's sad right now. The emo game that we have been seeing from both LCS, Academy, and even in the semi-pro amateur scene has been definitely one of the more entertaining things about the games that we see, because sometimes it's just standard emotes, and other times you'll see like other emotes as well that are being used, and you have to like decipher and figure out what the meaning is behind it.
And I know you're an expert at that. You definitely taught me way more about Twitch emotes than probably anybody else.
True.
So.
I don't think it's a good thing, though, that it's become such an ingrained part of my vocabulary now. Yeah.
You haven't used one this series, as far as I can remember, so that's a pretty good start. But with, just over a minute left before the Elder Dragon actually spawns, I feel like we are in a pretty similar position this game as what we were in game 2, right? Like TSM gonna have to look for some kind of steal, and Hanser.
Well, Gamsu actually wins the 1v1 this time around. Just one more Shock Blast should do the trick. Oh, but Hyper says, all right, buddy, enough of that. Gets the flash in, doesn't even need to worry about the collateral damage missing because he just goes in for the point-blank shoot.
Yeah, I feel like there's been some very odd, like, small microplay between Gamsu and Hanser this game. And I feel like that was another one of them where Hanser hits the Q onto a minion and is like, oh yes, this is my chance. Now that I have missed my ability, it's time to fight. And unfortunately, that's just not how your champion works. And I also think that the ultimate from Hanser will be down when this Elder Dragon does spawn. It's going to be very close, but he's still going to have to teleport out. He's not going to be quite as effective when he actually gets there, and because we're so close at this point, the teams need to jockey a little bit for wave priority. They have a push in top lane. They're going to have an opportunity to get a push in mid lane. It's going to be very difficult for TSM to walk in to the actual Dragon Pit.
And you see already how important it is for the rest of TSM to contest for this Elder Flip, because it's their sole win condition at this point in the game. Teleporting already trying to contest the wave, but Luger and the rest of 100 Thieves are able to combat back. Gamsu has also teleported to the fray. Ryoma is also here with his own teleport. He built up a wave into the top side of the map. It doesn't seem like it's going to be taking down that tier 2 turret anytime soon, but the rest of 100 Thieves Academy, they need to be here to secure the Elder Dragon, because it is the only way that TSM Academy can find a way back into this game. Hyper stole the second game Elder Dragon. Can he do it again? 3,000 on the Elder Dragon. Hanser going and flexing Maelstrom, but Ryoma is the one that secures the Elder Dragon for himself, and Hanser is gone. 100 Thieves Academy looking to do the same to the rest of the TSM Academy squad members. Take over, almost reaching the execution threshold point, but he's been routed off by Poom and Luger, and he gets eviscerated. Gamsu looking for more Shock Blast, trying to cut off the escape routes of Hyper and Yurson. They are on the run. They might be able to get into the base, but 100 Thieves Academy now have what they need to start taking down the structures of TSM Academy's home turf.
I feel like we've had a lot of our questions answered about how Gamsu and Chad are going to be playing in the team. Well, it's not the same kind of absolute dominance during the regular season that we were seeing from 100 Thieves. They are still well up to the task right now, and they are going to be taking another game off of TSM Academy and moving on in the upper bracket at this point. What? They don't have a lot of a wave. They're actually going to have to leave at this point, despite the fact that they have the Elder Dragon. They're not going to be taking down... I believe they only get the one Nexus turret, and then the inhibitor, or the turret that we just saw fall, was the bottom lane inhibitor turret. So, this is a very scary spot. 100 Thieves sticking around.
They looked for a cheese pick onto Hyper, trying to catch him out en route to the Baron, but the majority of the members of 100 Thieves Academy, they're low on HP, they're low on resources. They need to get some time to be able to recall before they can go for this Baron, but Hyper's trying to stall for recalls, throws up the smoke screen, catches Poom, doesn't necessarily give him vision that he saw Poom, but it stops the recall. And now TSM Academy, their only play is to try and just burn down this Baron while 100 Thieves are on the reset.
That's so much damage coming out of Gamsu. This is what we were saying. There's this big wake up that happens on 2 items, and they still have the Elder Dragon for about 45 more seconds. They're going to be the ones who are going to be hitting this right now. And look at this. TSM just conceding everything on the map. They don't have an Elder to play for another 4 minutes. There's a Baron in 100 Thieves' hands, and they're the ones with the range advantage. Jace's going to be very effective. Oh, okay, they do get it, but Chad is left behind.
It's okay. He'll get there.
It's okay.
Enough.
He'll catch up.
You know, 100 Thieves Academy, the 4 members took the Uber. Chad took the lift that arrived late to the show. Yeah, he's got the walk. Don't want to start rideshare politics in the chat.
True.
Soon.
Just like real life.
100 Thieves Academy, they find takeover. They still have the Elder Dragon for, who knows, 20 seconds, maybe more, but Baron buff is going to be enough to be able to lock down the base. Hanser finds one trade back over the Gamsu, but 4 members gone from TSM Academy means that 100 Thieves are going to have enough to be able to end the game, end the series here, and be able to move on in the upper bracket. 100 Thieves Academy. You know, the series wasn't what we expected, Josh, but it was awesome. It was exciting, and I think this is going to give us a lot to think about and talk about when we're looking at this new 100 Thieves Academy squad, because Chad and Gamsu have answered some questions that we had before the series even began.
Yeah, I'm really honestly pretty impressed with how Chad in particular has been playing with this team. It's a situation where they've been able to consistently find these early game advantages. They aren't necessarily super dominant in everything that they've done, but they had a good start to game 1. They had a great game 2, and in game 3, Chad was still very, very important to a lot of the success that we saw 100 Thieves actually pick up in that. So if they can continue to integrate these 2 players into the roster, 100 Thieves might actually be doing better in this tournament than we had initially expected based on the news that Tenacity and Kennedy weren't going to be playing with them.
Yeah, I mean, if 100 Thieves Academy, they're able to play this decently well without what many consider to be, you know, their star jungler and Kemvi. I mean, Chad stepped up to the plate pretty damn well. You know, Gamsu, I think, still has some questions to answer on his own, but, you know, we know that Gamsu from his past, when he was playing first in League of Legends competitively, back over on Dignitas and then Fnatic, has been a great role player in the past. And
yeah,
now the Jace win rate does not get affected. It's still 100% over
True.
2 games here. The laning phase, you know, Josh, not necessarily the cleanest, but I think this opens up some diversity and some options for 100 Thieves Academy to play through and towards now that they continue to move on within the upper bracket of Proving Grounds.
They still have a lot left that they actually have to play through, right? Being one of the higher seeds does mean that the rest of this quadrant of the bracket should be a little bit easier for them, right? They have already picked up their first win, which is something up against TSM that we were kind of expecting to be one of the harder challenges for them right out the gate, and they were able to show that even though it wasn't the cleanest, most dominant victory, they're still able to find all of these wins over and over. So big props to the fact that they've been able to integrate new players so quickly, so effectively, and hopefully we can continue to see these guys do well in the rest of Proving Grounds.
I think it's just also speaks volumes about how 100 Thieves Academy will want to play, especially around Chad as well, because the game 1, I mean, yeah, we don't want to say it was all on Chad, because I think the mindset of Chad being on a more facilitator, gank-heavy jungler like Volibear versus a more resource-intensive one like the Graves and the Viego, it really changed up the mindset of how 100 Thieves Academy were playing. You know, maybe we get to see a series later on where Chad goes back to something like a Xin Zhao or a Volibear or even a Trundle, and they're able to perform well with it, and then that completely takes away any of the concerns that we have now going forward. But, you know, it's exciting because normally you expect Kemvi to be the one that is making all the plays and the ones that is taking up the resource-intensive reins on this squad. But Chad is able to just slot right in.
Yeah, I'm, again, very impressed with what they've been able to do. And I also want to take some time to note that we've been seeing this team typically have Luger as one of their main threats later on in the game, but we didn't necessarily need to see him step up nearly as much in this series as we often have in the past. And I feel like that's a really big boon to this team when you aren't as reliant on one player having good games, and you can allow more people to find their own success, it's going to mean that you can't just ban these guys out as easily as you might have initially expected. They're able to play through so many different members, and I mean, we've been able to see that they are still this team that needs to be feared. They're able to play these team fights really effectively, and that's something that they've been able to show that they can still do regardless of who they're playing with.
And, of course, we can't go this series without giving credit over to Ryoma, who got to play Rise in all 3 games. Obviously, the game 1 wasn't a victory, but still looked pretty decent in that loss, as 100 Thieves, despite being down 14,000 gold near the end, there's a couple fights where you called it. If they weren't down that much gold, those were potentially winning fights for 100 Thieves Academy just based on how well Ryoma was kiting backwards on the Rise. Unfortunately, when there's a huge stat difference, then there's only so much damage that you can potentially do before the overwhelmingly stat differentials in the Diana and the Renekton just charging towards you and just running you down. But then in games 2 and 3, the stat difference wasn't there, or it was on Ryoma's side that time around.
Yeah, and I think the other big part of that is TSM were very convinced that Twisted Fate, Ophelios Thresh were the bans going up against 100 Thieves. And now we have to start asking ourselves, like, well, is Ryoma just going to play one of the strongest champions in the entire game right now? Is he just going to be able to play it over and over again? Do we not think it's a threat? Because I feel like he's shown that it is, right? He's able to play. He played it into Takeover's LeBlanc, which is by far Takeover's most feared champion these days. He's able to play it into the Azir, where it's just not the best matchup for the Rise just because of the range differential. And if he can continue to play as effectively as he did here, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of the other mid laners to actually play up against him, because he is one of the stronger players in terms of the mid laners in all of the Braving Grounds tournament.
And, you know, funny enough, speaking about Ryoma so much, he's actually going to be the interview that we will have in just a few moments here, Josh. Now, they haven't had a chance to set up the interview quite yet, so we'll be taking a couple more minutes before he's ready to talk with us. But for 100 Thieves Academy, I don't know if we have a chance to pull up the bracket graphic again, just to kind of give us a visual of what or who their next opponents will be, but I believe since they're on the top side of that other bracket that we saw, they'll be taking on the winners of Evil Geniuses Academy and Golden Guardians Academy. And based on what Evil Geniuses did during the playoff season, I'm kind of inclined to slate Evil Geniuses as the favorites going into the Golden Guardians matchup, which means that we would see a potential Evil Geniuses Tomio versus Chad in the jungle, which, strange enough, Josh, was just a rematch of Evil Geniuses Prodigies and 100 Thieves Next just earlier this summer before they both got promoted.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have a lot of cool narratives that we're going to be seeing regardless of who wins, right? Golden Guardians has had a bit of a tougher time actually making it here. They were the second team to qualify via the Unified Grand Prix, ahead of TSM, Zeus, Resolve, and Supernova, but they were also one of the teams that had to, the Academy teams that had to play through the Unified Grand Prix in the first place, right? Whereas a lot of these other teams like Evil Geniuses were able to directly qualify into this tournament. Evil Geniuses were, you know, the 5-6 teams that were actually able to qualify directly from the Academy season, and while they didn't have the best Academy playoff showing, it was still a very tight series that they were able to play, and I believe every single series went to a 3-2, so they're still very strong.
Very close as well. And, you know, Cloud9 Academy eventually did take on Team Liquid Academy in the grand finals of our summer split. But as you noted before, Cloud9 had to go the full distance, full 5 games against Evil Geniuses Academy. Team Liquid Academy had to go the full distance against 100 Thieves Academy. And, you know, that being said, you know, Evil Geniuses Academy is a potential dark horse for this tournament. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it does sound like we have Ryoma ready and waiting for us on the other side so that we can get our Verizon post-game interview with him. So, without further ado, let's talk to Ryoma. Maybe not quite.
TikTok.
TikTok.
Jump at the gun, Mark.
I might have jumped the gun a little bit. I thought we were ready to talk to Ryoma.
I could hear him for a second. It's okay. I don't blame you all that much, but it is a thing where I kind of want to look a little bit more at how the bracket will be going, right? Because it is the winner of Evil Geniuses Academy versus Golden Guardians Academy, and I think looking back a little bit more at the actual playoffs that Evil Geniuses were playing, we have to remember that Cloud9 Academy still had a big opportunity to go far in playoffs. They just lost to Cloud9, who ended up getting second in their first round.
Yeah, things we'll be looking forward to. Ryoma, I believe now is waiting on the line, and we can transition. Thank you so much. First of all, congratulations on the dub, Ryoma. You got to pull out Rise in all 3 games and never got banned away from you. Do you feel like that was a kind of a big blunder on TSM Academy's part?
I mean, I think by game 2 they would have realized that we had high prior on Rise, I guess. Like, I thought the first game they definitely had me. I didn't expect the first pick earlier, and I chose a pretty bad matchup into it. But I think by game 3 I thought they were going to ban it for sure. But I think they ended up going a different path, which is fine.
All right. We've also been noticing that despite the Rise coming through and having a lot of strong performances, you're also integrating 2 new players into the roster. We got to hear a little bit about how Chad Jungle perceived his role in the team, but could you give us a little bit of insight into how you feel Gamsu and Chad have been playing with you guys?
I mean, I think they're good players. I expected, honestly, I wasn't expecting much, but they have actually like shown me a lot of positives. I think even by game 2, I think even Chad Jungle, he had a rough game on the volley there, but I just told him, like, just lock in Graves and I'm sure you'll be fine. He locked it in, he popped off, like pretty much carried that game, and that's kind of what you need,
Yeah, I think that's something that we've kind of found out with players coming from the semi-pro amateur scene, that sometimes it's not about what the meta dictates, just tell them to lock in their most comfortable champion or whatever champion that they feel confident on, because a lot of the times that is what can be the turning point for a lot of these series. So going forward for you guys at 100 Thieves Academy, obviously there's always things to work on. What do you feel like is kind of the biggest hurdle as a squad that you guys are facing right now?
I guess it's just like, since we bring in 2 new players, we're just trying to work back the fundamentals, just like the basics, work on that, and then once we work that out, I'd say we're still working on it, but we're definitely getting there. We just need just more time, and I think over time, I think they'll get a lot better, and we as a squad will just get better, and I'm pretty sure we'll do pretty well.
All right. Well, you don't have that much time to work out with these guys, right? You are right in the middle of proving grounds, and while this is going to be over the course of a couple of weeks, you got to make sure everybody's got their nose to the grindstone. So, with that in mind, we know that your next opponents are going to be the winner of Evil Geniuses Academy versus Golden Guardians Academy. Is there one of those that you're a little bit more worried about?
I'd say EG. I think the mid lane is not bad. But I can see GGS winning at the same time in saying that, just because I think EG can only probably win off their mid laner, and I think GGS can actually play off a fair bit of players in that sense.
Bit of respect for both teams and kind of outlining some of the win conditions for both of those academy squads. We'll have to find out tomorrow, as that is when that matchup will take place, and then later, of course, this week you'll face the winner of those 2. Again, Ryoma, congratulations once again on your victory. Before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, I shout out my biggest Twitch fan, Wuri. She's always supporting me.
Let's
pretty
go!
much every game.
Let's
go! Yeah. And my O's friends. Thank you.
All right. You gotta thank the copy pasta dank queen meme herself. So, shout out to Warrior of all the 100 Thieves fans. Again, thank you so much, Ryoma. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
I love that he gave respect to Warrior. That's that's so
She's
awesome.
always in chat every single time. Sometimes
Yeah.
it feels like it doesn't even matter if Ryoma is playing or not. You'll still see the same copy pastas anyway. It's a lot of respect coming through for a great Oceanic mid lane that we're starting to see make some more waves here now that he's in North America.
Yeah, number one part of your brand is knowing your fan base, ladies and gentlemen, and that is being very in tune with your number one fan. We're going to be taking a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, it's going to be our second and final series of the day between Wildcard Red and 100 Thieves next. Don't tune away.
Verizon believes everyone deserves the best. That's why we start with 5G from America's most reliable network.
Verizon 5G is next level.
Then give families plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need starting at $35.
You get so much more than this, a great network.
And offer the best in entertainment on select unlimited plans, like Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, as well as Discovery Plus, with a Galaxy S21 plus 5G when you buy one. There's no reason to settle for less than the best, only from Verizon.